Have they not just sat down and like actually mapped out like where all their money is going?
These are one of those conversations that you gotta have before you get married.
How did you get $45,000 in credit card debt? Honestly, with a pen and paper, how much do you guys make? List out all your bills. What do you have left over? What are you spending over top of that to get there?
Credit cards are not the issue. They are what allow a symptom to get worse. If the symptom is I overspend, well, a credit card allows you to do that like on steroids, right? Welcome back to the show. Lauren and I are back for our weekly episode where we talk all things money. Lauren, today, or this morning, I should say, I had a bit of an emergency situation happen. So you might notice there's a slight difference with my face. Accidentally shaved is a hard word to use. I very deeply trimmed my beard where I wasn't meaning to. And it was just a whole mess. And so like normally, when I'm shaving, trimming up my beard, I trim around my neckline with no guard on the trimmers. And I was rushing this morning to get ready, accidentally didn't put the trimmer back on, and then just started going for the cheek side and I instantly was like, oh my God. I screwed up. It was just a brief panic attack. And then I was like, oh man, okay, like I got to do something about this. So trimmed it all the way down. Not the best way to start the day though, especially because we're filming today. And I was like, man, I haven't trimmed, I trim my beard regularly. I haven't cut it though, like this short in probably 5 years. So it's a little different. I haven't seen my chin this much before. I don't know. Do you feel
naked?
Yeah, I do. It's a little weird.
That's so funny. Actually, but when we just got on here, I realized I haven't brushed my hair out after it dried. So here we are. We're just having issues today, but it's going to be fine.
Yeah, I texted my wife and I told her what happened. She's like, you're lying. Because she always jokes. She's like, I think you'd be ugly without a beard. I'm like, thanks. So I texted her. I was like, hey, by the way, I lost the beard. And she's like, oh man. She thought I was kidding for a while. And then she got home. She's like, oh, you were not kidding.
Just tell someone it's part of your Halloween costume.
Yeah. Funny enough, she's like, you look like Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. And I was like, that's not the look I was going for. So
there it is.
Thank you.
That's what you can do for Halloween. It's perfect.
Oh gosh. But why don't we jump into today's episode? So we're talking finances, couples, issues going on with that. So why don't we get into this first one?
Yeah. So this one says, is it a valid red flag to not want to combine incomes or share property? My husband has been pretty stern on not combining bank accounts or putting my name on the deed to the house. He did lax a little and opened up the idea of me putting his name on my bank account and having his checks directly deposited there. But I was uncomfortable with the idea because then he keeps an emergency nest egg while I'm vulnerable. He doesn't want to put my name on the deed of the house because he doesn't want the mortgage rate to go up, except I think I can be on the deed and not the mortgage. He isn't gung-ho about fully combining our lives past me living in his house, and he isn't really open to a conversation about it either. I feel like I'm reaching a crossroads about it. Do I stay and get over it, or is this an issue I should move past or forgive?
Lauren, we talk about this all the time, but these are one of those conversations that you got to have before you get married, not after you've committed. I'm a big believer. You get married and the point is that this is the person you're committing your life to, not just temporary, right? It's also a very big legal process to divorce. You get a divorce and all that. These are the types of conversations like this, kids, politics, religion. These are the things that you have to have conversations about before you get married. Because otherwise, you run into situations like this where, you get married and now there's potentially a division of assets if you were to get a divorce. And then you're realizing, hey, we don't align on this huge thing. With that said though, is this a red flag? I think that to me, the red flag is that he's not willing to have a conversation about it. That to me is the part that I'm like, it really sucks when someone says, I just don't want to talk about it. Now, this could also be something he's look, it sounds like they got married maybe later in life. They've already kind of established themselves into adulthood. Yeah. And so maybe this is just something he's like, you know what, it's my boundary. I'm not going to move past it. And he's just where he's at with it,
Yeah. And like you said, I don't know why, she probably knew all of this before they got married. And it's I don't know why we expect that things are going to change suddenly when it's legal, we have a legally binding contract between each other. We're not going to change so radically that completely, he's just gonna be okay, cool. Now that we're married, we can do all this. We need to be having those conversations up front because why are we doing this? If you're not, if you knew about this already, why is this now an issue when you're like deeply into the marriage? You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm just not understanding why this wasn't addressed before. But yeah, I question like how old they are because, you know, like you said, if they're getting married like later in life, I hear it all the time. Like people who have literally have like they have full grown children and families, and then they decide to get married again. They do like to keep things separate, you know, probably for like you know situations where they have things set up for their kids to be passed down and inheritances, all that stuff. But so I get that, but like not even willing to have a conversation about it is a little strange to me.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And to me, like that was the thing that stood out. Like I imagine that this is, you know, and later in life could be like mid 30s, you know, or something, right? Like they've had time to establish themselves as adults. Clearly he bought a home, like, and I think that to me is like one of the big differences if you get married earlier in life, like in your early to mid 20s versus later in life, like 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Is like you already have established yourself. And if you're getting married when you're younger, the chances of you like creating this life together that's so intertwined that it doesn't make sense to have like, hey, like I need you to sign this prenup or whatever, or like, you know, whatever it is, right? Like it's way less likely that will need to be put in place because everything's already intertwined, right? But if the longer you wait to get married, if you end up getting married, there's so many things that are separate that it's difficult then if things are separate and then people are also set in their ways a lot as well. You know, that's the hard part there is like if people are already set in their ways and then you two want to go and get married, like you said, like it's not likely that someone's going to change so drastically all of a sudden.
No. And this is like, I don't know, like this is a tricky one because it's like, do you stay and get over it? I mean, you sort of signed up for this when you went into the marriage, like knowing this. And I find it weird that like, he's so against all these other things, but he's willing to like put his paycheck into her, like their
right. That's a pretty big one.
Yeah. Like you would think, and I guess she said he does have a side nest egg, you know, but I guess I question that too. Like there's some very strange things here that like just aren't adding up, but he's willing to not willing to do all these other things, but he's willing to just put his paycheck into their joint account where she, you know, has access and can see it and everything. So I don't know. This is a very tricky situation because like you did sign up for it when you married somebody who, I mean, unless you guys just did not have a conversation about money at all beforehand, you know what I mean? Like,
which is just wild to think, but so many people do that.
Yeah. So I'm like, you kind of already did, you know, sign up for it, but I don't know. This is a weird one. I personally think like, I don't know if I could get over this, but I would have had this conversation long beforehand, set some boundaries, set some like, you know, expectations for myself. And if those weren't met, I probably would have just like had to make the determination for myself that it probably wasn't in my best interest. But this is a really tricky one to know how to go, where to go from here.
I'm almost wondering if she's like feeling like it needs to be all or nothing. Like she has an expectation in her mind of what combining finances looks like for a married couple. And that's what she wants to go after, like putting like the deed, her name on the deed, her being in the nest egg, her being with the you know, joint bank account, all that. And maybe he's like, look, like, I don't want to do all that. Right. But I am like, for me, like being willing to put your income inside of someone else's account, like, you know, now it's your joint account. That's a pretty big move, I think. Like I would say like lower down on the tier of like big financial moves of combining finances is like, hey, let's just open some other joint account, right? And we can still keep our income separate. But this is like, no, I'm willing to like give you full access to my income, you know, like, so I don't know. It seems like maybe he has some compromise in him and that she's just like, no, that's not enough compromise for me. So I don't know. There might be like, they both might need to adjust how this looks. Cause at the same time, like you guys did get married, you are signed up for this, right? Like there's always going to be compromise. You got to find that middle ground of like, hey, maybe we're both not exactly getting what we want, but we're both also still within bounds of like what's comfortable for us. Yeah.
And, you know, if like you said, like they're already sort of in this, and if something were to happen, unless they do have like, you know, a prenup or something, like if they legally get divorced, like there's going to be some ramifications of that too anyway, you know? So it's like, why can't we just come up with something now? But yeah, I think you're right. Like probably having to adjust your expectations. Like if she really wants everything to be 50-50 and he's not there, then she's going to have to adjust her expectations a little bit, because I feel like he is willing to like flex a little bit if he is putting his paychecks like directly into their joint account. But maybe there's a reason for this house. Like I said, if this is later in life and this house is supposed to go to his kids or something, and I don't know, you know, that gets messy with that. Maybe that's why. But also like just have a conversation about it. But who knows? Maybe he grew up in a family where you just didn't talk about money, and that's just, it is what it is. And I'm not going to have a conversation about it. But yeah, it just seems odd that like yeah, you're already in the marriage and this is where you're at. So we probably should address those things up front.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm a big believer, like once you're in it, you're in it, you know, like you tied the knot, like there's no going back now, for better or for worse. Right. I would say like the solution is to this is like, you both got, you're going to have to change how this looks, right? Like in your mind, you're going to have to say, all right, what I wanted is probably not going to happen. So what's the best solution that I can find? And I think like if this also might be a thing of like, especially again, if they are getting married after already having a life, maybe they were married in the past or whatever, right? Like this might just be a thing that over time gets closer to what you wanted it to look like at the beginning, right? Like over time, okay, we've built up, like there's just a certain level of trust that gets built up over an extended period of time that you can't just front load that level of trust. You know, like the trust you have in a person is largely dependent on how long you've been able to trust that person. And so maybe he just needs a longer period of time to say, okay, I can bring down these boundaries a little bit, let you in a little bit more. And then we can find a solution that works. And I think the bigger issue here is like, can you two just be aligned, at least in the moment now, on what are our values around money? How are we going to spend money? How are we going to use our money, interact with it? Or like, what does it mean for us to have our money versus, my own money, right? And then if in the day to day, it doesn't look exactly like how you want it to, that's something you can get over if you two are aligned on the bigger stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. I just don't even know how you have a conversation with this, because if you won't have a conversation about it, I also kind of get the feeling that like, maybe she's not working, because she said like, do you get that feeling too? Because she's like, then he'll have like a side nest egg and I'll have nothing. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's true. Like what's going on with her money? Like, yeah.
Which is probably why she's feeling super, upset about this anyway, just because, that is scary if like you're not working and this person is not, sharing their finances or, even wanting to split the house with you, but
yeah.
Yeah. Which I think
that makes it a tough situation.
Wouldn't the house, I guess it depends what state and stuff they live in, but if they get divorced, like, wouldn't she be like to have some sort of like rights to that or something? I'm not sure. I'm not an attorney.
I'm always so confused on it, because my thought was like, once you get married, everything's like legally both yours. And so once you get a divorce, like, or if you get a divorce, then things are going to get split either way. I imagine it depends on what state you're in, but I don't know. That's not my area of expertise.
No. Yeah. And who knows, he might have like, trust things set up where it's not going to her.
That's true.
Again, we don't know the ages of these people, but anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Why don't we move into the next one? So this person wrote, my husband and I are misaligned on our finances. I'm at a breaking point when it comes to money in this relationship, but divorce is not an option since our marriage is solid otherwise. We've been married for 4 years, have 2 young kids, and both work good jobs. I manage our finances because he has zero interest in doing so. This became more important once we became parents for us to have a budget, automate savings, etc., but he's just fiscally irresponsible. He is constantly shopping online and rarely goes a day without spending. We make good money, so I'm not worried about little purchases, and I have no interest in policing a grown man, but he has no money mindset whatsoever and has a very aloof approach to finances. When we first got married, we had a few instances of gas or power going out because he didn't see the bills in his inbox. He's negligent about a lot of things, finances and otherwise, and I'm at a point where something needs to change. I'm considering the following: fully taking over our finance management and having his paychecks deposited into our joint account so I can have a full view plus track our expenses. Write a post-nup where there's some division of our finances to reduce his negative impact, or bring this to couples therapy.
There's a few good options there, but I don't personally think, fully taking over the finances is probably the answer. Maybe that's what he wants, but it seems to me like he just doesn't have like some sort of bigger goal or reason to have an interest in money. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like that's lacking on his part, because if he's just not really paying attention to it, doesn't really care where things are going, like, do they even have a vision that's like shared together of like what they want?
Yeah.
It seems like they make good money. So you know how that goes. Like, you make good money, you can spend good, you're living good. It's like, what do I need more than, today? So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. This is funny. Like, bring this to couples therapy. Absolutely. You need to be bringing this stuff up, because there's gotta be something underneath there that, there's a bigger issue here.
I thought it was funny that she said divorce is not an option, but she was talking about signing a post-nup. I'm like, wouldn't that only apply then in a divorce? Again, I don't really know, but But another thing that caught me is she said that I manage our finances because he has zero interest in doing so. But then one of her solutions is she takes even more control of the finances. Like, clearly just one of you having a say in this just hasn't been working. And that might have come up because, like she said, he just doesn't care. But like, that's not, like, more of that isn't going to get the right solution, right? She said she doesn't want to police him. If you take full control of the finances, you're going to end up giving him an allowance. And when he inevitably goes over that, you're going to feel like you need to police him, right? It's just not going to create the type of environment that you want. And like, look, like, I'll be honest, like, between my wife and I, like, our level of like interest in finance and money and stuff, like, mine's way up here, hers is like way down here. And like, that's totally fine because it works to where she, you know, she's like, yeah, you can manage the budget and do all that, like play with the bank accounts, like, you know, set it up however you think is best. She has that trust in me. But at the same time, she's not like, I don't care. She's just doesn't care about the day to day of it, like the month in, month out. But she still wants to know and be a part of the conversations that have to do with the bigger picture. Right. And like, that's the difference. Is it's not that she doesn't care. It's just she's okay not being involved in the small parts of it, the parts that on their own are insignificant, but then the bigger things, like, she's still having an active say in. And I feel like that's what's missing here is if he doesn't want to deal with it on the day to day, like, he still needs to be involved in general with it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're right. It's going to become like this parent-child dynamic. If she takes everything over, gives him spending money because she is going to police it, you know, that's exactly what's going to happen. And that's probably why he is the way he is. Like, who knows? Like, again, I always say, like, this goes way deep. It goes back into like how your parents handled money. Like, you know, what did it look like? What did it look like between, you know, your mom and dad, things like that. This is what you've learned your entire life, you know? So, but it's like I said, I think for them, and it says they just got married like 4 years ago. They have 2 kids now. They're probably super busy. There probably just is no time, quote unquote. They probably just haven't, you know, prioritized time to, like, you know, have that bigger dream or take a date night and actually think about what they want to do with their money. Because when you're just living like week to week and, you know, year to year, it's hard to look out into the future and be like, what do we want to do with this really good income that we have? How can we maximize this and really do something that we really want to do? And if you're not thinking about that, if you're not like getting deeper into those conversations with your significant other, it is easy to fall into this, like, well, I have enough money to make it week to week, so I'm just going to continue to do that, you know?
Yeah. 100%. And like, that's kind of the point of getting married is you have these shared conversations about the bigger stuff. Right. But I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, I think there's a goal that's missing here. Cause like, when people are in that mode of like, well, I make good money, things are comfortable, so let me just spend whatever's left over. It's often because they don't like, there's no added care on their spending because they don't need to have added care to it. Like, if you're not working towards a goal, you can kind of just live in this maintenance phase of like, let me just keep everything running and it's all fine. You know, I'm not building, but things are just going. Whereas if they had a goal that they're working towards, a goal that he, you know, this may need to be a goal that he cares a little bit more about so that he can get, you know, actively involved in it. But like, if there's no goal, like, nothing is going to happen. But if he can get behind a goal that they are both like bought into, like, that could be the thing that changes. Like, all right, now, like, I have incentive to change how I'm behaving with my finances because I can actually see the progress, and that progress is going to lead to a big payoff that I really want. You know, like, to me, like, that's why the goals are so important, is because you got to have like a, you know, like the carrot at the end of the stick, right? Like, you want to eventually get to that carrot, right? You want to eventually feel like all the work that you're doing is going to pay off towards something. Otherwise, you can fall into these like slumps like this.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like once you get those, you know, those things set up, it's pretty easy just to, like, you know, once a month they sit down and like have coffee together and like just check in and make sure they're on the right page. I feel like just even like bringing your awareness to it, like at least once a month for someone like this, someone who doesn't really like the finances, like, you have to, you know, you're an adult, you need to like have some type of skin in the game here and actually, you know, participate in your family finances. You're an adult. This is what you need to do. So I feel like once they have like all their goals lined up, they know what they want to be putting their money towards, or, you know, whatever, at least sitting down once a month to make sure it is going where they want it to go. That's, I feel like he has to be part of it somehow. I don't think her taking it over is going to help the situation at all.
Yeah. Now, the spending issue is like a whole nother issue as well, that it's like, if this, like, there's a difference between like spending because you don't feel like you have a goal and you're kind of just inflating your lifestyle, and then having an actual spending issue, right? Like, and I think determine, like, for the wife in particular, determining like which one is it for him? Like, is he just like not motivated and so therefore just feels like it's fine to spend whatever's left over, which that's an easier fix. Let's just like figure out something that's going to motivate you, versus like, no, even if he was motivated, this spending is an issue, and, you know, like, that's going to be hard to dial back on. I think you got to both identify which one that is. And then if it's an actual spending issue, right? Like they have he has an issue with cutting back on that. Like he won't be able to, like, that's going to be, I think, a lot more difficult and probably going to cause more friction when they do try to make progress on this.
Yeah, for sure. But I feel like when you have no type of like bigger plan in your life, it's easy to like overspend on things because there's no purpose for what you're doing. So hopefully, like, when all of those things get sorted out, the spending sort of sorts itself out too.
Yeah.
And like I said, like checking in at least once a month, like maybe you know how much you can spend, and then, you know, that's like your free money to do whatever you want with it. But the rest is going to be going towards XYZ goals that we have. You know what I mean? So I feel like some of this stuff will sort itself out, but yeah, it could be an ongoing issue, but I feel like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. They definitely got to get on the same page and start checking in with each other.
Yeah, for sure. Should we move to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This one says, how do we get out of debt? My husband and I are currently about $45,000 in debt across 3 credit cards. I've never liked credit cards, but let me be the first to tell you that my husband does. And he kept telling me it would be okay. Let's get a card, he said over and over. I got so tired of hearing it, I said, fine. Fast forward a couple years and we are stuck in debt. The small cushion of our rainy day fund is gone and we rely on our credit cards a lot. We tried working with a financial advisor that our friend recommended, but the situation only got worse and it didn't seem like much help. $1,500 later and the tension between my husband and I has gotten worse. I'm looking for some real advice this time.
Classic, right? Like, I don't like credit cards. He does. So we get a credit card, and this is exactly why she didn't like them. Yeah, that's a tough situation, especially because you were against having the credit cards and he really wanted to get one. And now you're $45,000 in debt.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I used to be like very like Dave Ramsey, drink the Kool-Aid, you know, like credit cards are evil. Like so I get it, but at the same time, it's like, dude, credit cards are not the issue. They are what allow a symptom to get worse, right? Like if the symptom is I overspend, well, a credit card allows you to do that, like on steroids, right? And so clearly there is an issue here with not just his spending, their spending, right? Because both of them have to do this. I would be very hesitant to believe that she was like, no, I've never even used the credit card. We just have them, right? Like I'm sure she's against them, but she's probably used them once or twice, right?
Yeah.
There's clearly like an issue here. The credit card is just or the credit card debt is like the symptom of them having a spending problem.
Yeah. And then I like when she said, you know, we tried working with a financial advisor. That's not their area of specialty. They're not there to like help you budget and pay off debt. They're there to help you manage like your long-term investments or whatever you want to do. But so that's probably why $1,500 later and nothing has helped them. But yeah, we talk about this all the time. Yeah. I'm not a big, you know, I don't believe that like nobody can have a credit card, but these people have proved that they're not good candidates for this. So we need to go back to what she said and not have a credit card. You know what I mean? Like, let's start from the basics. And there's got to be a problem here. Either they're spending way over what they make, and this is where all this credit card debt came from, or like their lifestyle, or you know, in tandem with that, their lifestyle is just way too big, and they're financing it on these credit cards, and that's how they're $45,000 in debt.
100%, right? Like, there's got to be some issue here. Yeah, I would bet that they've just inflated their lifestyle because they could after getting the credit cards. And now it's just they're stuck in a hole. But yeah, like you said, step one, like you got to get off that cycle. You know, you got to get off the cycle of, well, I had to put stuff on the credit card because I didn't have anything in my bank account because I just spent that money paying off last month's credit card bill, you know, or statement. Like, you got to get out of that cycle. And if that means the next month or 2 months are going to be like, you know, we're just scraping by, like we're cutting back on the fun stuff we do, maybe cutting back on like the type of groceries we buy, right? Like, we're cutting back across the board so we can get out of that cycle. Because once you can get out of that cycle, now it's like, all right, now we can actually focus on making a plan to get out of this. Like, the biggest problem I see is people try to get out of debt, but they're still using the credit card when, like, look, like, again, the credit card isn't necessarily the thing that's wrong, but if that's your main way of this symptom, you know, showing itself in reality, like, then you got to remove that from your life entirely.
Yeah, 100%. Like, first off, 45,000 in debt across 3 credit cards. Like, you're done for right now. Like, you're no more. Yeah. Like, they need to get on a very strict budget. Like, it feels to me like they didn't say it in here, but if they're going to a financial advisor, have they not just sat down and like actually mapped out like where all their money is going? Because I feel like that's the easiest thing to like sit
Yeah.
down and just honestly with a pen and paper, how much do you guys make?
Yeah.
Where's your money going every month? Like, list out all your bills. What do you have left over? Okay. How did you get $45,000 in credit card debt? What are you spending over top of
Yeah.
that to get there? And I feel like that's the most simple answer. And of course it is simple and no one would be in debt if they would do that. But like, I don't know. It just seems like we need to step back to the basics here and probably deflate the lifestyle a lot and actually follow through with it. Stop, whatever, if you're doing consolidation or all these different things and still using your credit cards, like you can't. You have to change your life. And it kind of seems like for me, like they're just stuck, but they probably haven't really done anything to like actually change like what they're doing,
100%. And like literally, like when I work with people, the very first thing I do is like I'll have them send over all their account statements and I will go through line item with them and like, look, like this is where your money's actually going. Like people always have this idea in their head of where their money goes. Like, oh, it's because the bills are so expensive or grocery prices or whatever. But then they discount all of the random BS that's in their spending. Right. And like that random BS, whether it's, $150 a month or $1,000 a month or whatever it is, like that is your room to make progress. And until you can get that part under control, like nothing else, like you said, like debt consolidation or any other of these like tricks or things that you try to like to skirt your way around the issue, like none of that stuff's going to work if you still have the main issue, which is the spending problem, right?
Yeah. And I think, she's tired of being in this debt and she wants out of it really quickly. And the answer and real advice is it's not going to happen. You need to sit down and write a budget and stick to it and do that for like 2 or 3 years. I don't know how much they make, so who knows how quickly they could get through it, but like rinse and repeat. And that it's very simple, but it's not easy to stay on a path like that for that long. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off. They want the quick and easy answer and there isn't one, honestly.
Yeah, it sucks because you can get into debt so quick, but to get out of it, as again, like we don't know how much they make if they're on a limited income.
Yeah.
This realistically is like 45,000. I'm like, okay, that's for a lot of people, that's going to be like a 2, 3, 4 year journey.
Yeah.
Like, and who knows, maybe they make a great income and this is like something they can do in like a year or two.
Yeah.
But I would say like going through that process is not only is going to get them aligned because in order to succeed, they're going to have to do the right things. They're going to have to be on the same page about it, but like, they're probably going to come out on the other end of that, like so much, I don't know if like closer is the word I'm looking for, but like, like accomplishing something so difficult like that, like you come out of the other end of that together, like, okay, shit, we can really do some hard stuff like this, Yeah.
And it is going to be painful because we know that whatever that $45,000 debt is probably going to be a little bit pain of change, So doing that together and figuring out ways to live your life where you don't have to do that anymore is definitely going to bring them closer, I think.
Yeah, 100%. So getting out of this, like you said, getting on the budget, putting together a plan, like people always like to have arguments over the avalanche or snowball method. At the end of the day, cut as much as you can from your expenses. Mm-hmm. How much income can we bring in? How much can we cut down the expenses? Those two sides of the equation. And then how much can we just throw at debt, right? Like if you're just like, there's 3 credit cards, you could probably just take your pick and it's not really going to make a huge difference if you're paying off credit card debt. Like, and then from there, you just got to keep chugging along.
Yeah, for sure. And keep going for a long time and don't give up.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a long journey.
Yes.
All right, that wraps up today's episode. Lauren, I feel like the biggest takeaway here is like, you just got to be aligned with each other, right? Like all of these scenarios that we went through, like it's one person not being aligned with the other person. And it always causes an issue. And like, before you get married in particular, like having these conversations, what are our values? What are our expectations of each other about how we're going to handle money? Because money and like financial arguments, I guess you could say, are like probably one of the biggest reasons for divorce. So like, if that's not something you're talking about before you get married, like it's just going to lead to issues, like almost guaranteed, right? Like the chances of you finding someone who you're just aligned with on all these topics before you get married is so slim. Yeah. But if you have the conversation, you can at least walk in with these are the I have knowledge of where this person's at and that I can adjust my expectations accordingly. But yeah, like always, if you enjoyed today's episode, best way you can help us grow is by subscribing and sharing this with a friend.
Yeah, and if you want to have your money question answered on the show, you can visit our website, justanothermoneypodcast.com, and click the submit a question button. And don't forget to join us for another episode of Just Another Money Podcast. The information information, opinions, and recommendations provided on this podcast are for entertainment purposes only and do not constitute professional financial advice. Any financial decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are your responsibility. We strongly recommend consulting with a licensed financial advisor or other qualified professional before making any significant financial decisions. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that we are not liable for any financial outcomes.